Okay, this is a video to document some requested analysis readings on a component on the current generation 3458A. This is for U404 on the A2 board, that is the AC measurement board. It is underneath one of the critical shields, so I want to keep that open for the least amount of time and touch it the least possible. So we're preparing for this. On the previous pictures I took, this is with the shield removed. U404 is right there. It is an 8-pin dual inline package. Pin 2 is V negative in, pin 3 is V positive in, pin 4 is VS negative, and then you have your output on 7 and 8. That's the request there. I might have been a little bit more hesitant had I known it was under one of the don't touch anything under here shields, but I agreed. So let's go through with it. I'm going to read off what pins I am on for positive and negative. The actual voltage will be seen in the video for confirmation, just so human error is reduced. And just recording this in general, so that I'm lessening my chances of needing to do this again to get correct readings, because I want to futz around underneath critical shields as little as possible. I don't even want to breathe on it. So currently my arm is on the ESD mat and I'm making contact with the shield casing. Okay, shielded area of 404 is exposed. We are not plugged in. After this, according to the warning on the guard, or the shielding, which I'm going to be paying attention to, it lets you know that there are, let's see, this cover is at guard potential. Dangerous voltage may exist on the cover. I don't know how likely that is when I'm not having anything connected for a reading, but from now on, I'm going to make contact with the outside and the ESD mat. So, just to confirm, we have 404 right there. Let's make sure anything else that's in our way is ready. Like this. Okay. We're going to have to reposition because it's small enough that I want magnification. guess we do it like this. Okay, I'm looking at 404. Double checking on the pin assignments. Actually, let's get this ready. If we're going to try to have everything as ready as possible, then I want the pin assignments here so I don't have to go back and forth once I start probing. Sorry for the delay. I should have had that ready beforehand. I guess we're not really... you might not be able to see exactly what I'm doing there. Yeah, not really. It's kind of washed out. I'll just have to verbalize what pins I'm touching. So, let's just do it this way. TI THS 4631. At Mauser. No, DigiKey. There we go. Okay. Sorry for the creaking. So I have that on the screen. Top left is the dot for pin 1. Which for me is upside down, so that's bottom right. Okay. Let's get it plugged in. Alright, so I'm going to put negative on pin 2, which is labeled V in negative, and I'm going to put my red on pin 3, which is labeled V in positive. On the datasheet, that shows left side middle tube, black top and red bottom. I'm flipped around in terms of the orientation of the board, so I need right side middle tube, red top and black bottom. These are very small pins. I'm going to look for other places on the board to trace to. So, V in negative, I'm literally looking at the trace. That connects to one of the pins on C409. It's directly across, and I see the trace leading to it. V in positive, pin 3 on the device we're probing. I'm looking at a trace that goes to CR403. I'm going to probe there because there's a lot less of a chance to short anything, because the device we want to probe is very tiny. And I really don't want to short components. All right. I'm not getting any voltage. Is it possible? Oh, this is on the AC board, so is it possible that if I'm in volts DC, it's not even turned on? Okay. I've switched to volts AC. We're going to try that again. I am putting black on the trace, or the contact of C409, which leads to V in negative, pin 2, and I'm putting red on C403, pushing in a little bit. I don't see any voltage. Okay, let's try from pin 3 to pin 4. It looks like pin 4 connects to C471. Maybe not. I see a point that I can probe at. Okay, so this is what I believe to be contacting pin 4 and pin 3. My negative lead is on pin 4 and my positive lead is on pin 3. I'm getting 21.565 volts. Now there was one other place that I couldn't quite tell if this was correct. So that's C471. So I'm going to try that as well, just in case. I'm just following where the board shows things connected. I get the same reading, 21.564 volts. So let's try 2 and 4, because I'm wondering if... What do I have for 2? Okay, so 2 is C409. So I'm going to try that, that test point that I got good connection on. And pin 2. So pin 2 and pin 4. I want negative on pin 4, positive on pin 2. Negative on pin 4 and positive on pin 2, or rather, points on the board that I believe lead to it so I don't inadvertently short something. I'm getting a bit of fluctuation, but pretty much at 0 volts. But not shorted together. Wait. I may have had a bad connection. I am now getting 21.564 volts. That is negative on pin 4, positive on pin 2. So if I was not getting a good connection before, let's try pin 2 and 3 again. So yeah, we'll go C409 to CR403. That's where I'm seeing C409 has a pad that leads to pin 2, and CR403 has a pad that leads to pin 3. Black will go to pin 2. No voltage. I'm getting 0.05 millivolts or 50 microvolts. Now, we have pins 7 and 6. It's basically the output. Pin 6 is Vout negative and pin 7 is Vs plus. So let's find test points for those. So pin 6 will be further away from me. There is a via that I see that I can touch that is traced to pin 6. It is in the labeling for Charlie 470. And it looks like one of the pads on Charlie 473 goes to pin 7. So we're going to put positive lead on pin 7 and negative lead on pin 6, or rather trace points that lead to those. Positive touching pin 7, negative to the via for pin 6. I am getting nothing. Double check. It is possible that via isn't really giving me good contact. It only goes to that via for pin 6. Alright, let's try something else. We have pin 7 is VS plus and pin 4 is VS minus. So let's get a reading for those. Pin 4 and 7. Put black on pin 4 and red on pin 7. Okay. Black on the test point that I used for pin 4. Red on the capacitor that gave me pin 7. I am getting, with my black lead on pin 4 and red lead on pin 7, I am getting 28.1-ish volts. Next, I'm guessing, so we have V in positive and V in negative, and then V out negative. So let's compare pin 6, which is V out negative, to each of pins 2, which is V in negative, and pin 3, which is V in positive. So pin 6 goes to that via that I tried and wasn't getting a reading with before. So I'm going to put my negative on that, and then positive on 2, get a reading, and positive on then 3, and we'll get a reading. Pin 2 is that C409 capacitor. Pin 3 is CR403 capacitor. Negative lead to the through via in the labeling of C470. And then we're going to do red on pin 2, which is V in negative. So we're comparing pin 6 V out negative to pin 2 V in negative. I am getting effectively no reading. Next we're going to have my black lead on pin 6 V out negative, and my red lead will go to pin 3 V in positive. I am getting 4.217 volts, 4.22 volts. I'm wiggling my leads a little bit. 4.28 volts, 4.3 volts, 4.4. It might be a capacitor charging. And I heard a relay click, and I think I was actually getting a reading from doing that. Let's try that last one again. I now have my meter set to high impedance instead of 10 meg because, I mean, everything in here is sensitive. Maybe a 10 meg resistor was doing things. Alright, black lead on the via in the label of 470. That will be pin 6. and we're going, that's a V out negative, and we're going to do pin 3 on the pad of CR403 for V in positive, 4.04. The key side is giving me a reading of 4,900 volts AC, so I'm definitely messing with it when I do that somehow. So I'm going to stop doing that. My friend on EEVBlog, I hope this gave you what you want, and I hope I didn't damage my device, because after seeing that reading of like 4,900 volts, and no, it was not millivolts, it was saying 5,000 volts basically on the screen. I don't want to futz with it anymore, so I'm going to turn this off, unplug. Actually, we can do a little bit more. It's going to be a bit of a sound here. So, just so you can see, can we zoom? Yes. Okay. So there's 404, U404. I traced out pin 2, because there's the dot right there, lining up with the dot on the board. I traced pin 2 to that point right there at C409. I traced pin 3 along here to that point at CR403. Right there was the point I used for testing. Then we have, so here is pin 1, here is pin 8. Yes, so down here at pin 7, I traced pin 7 to, yeah, pin 7 is VS plus. Good. Okay, I thought I'd done something wrong. So pin 7 we have right here, and I traced it to that point. That's what I use for contact at Charlie 473. And then pin 6, so that's V out negative. I traced that to this via right here, and that's what I used as my test contact point for pin 6. So you can use that as your reference for where I was contacting. And here, I'm going to move this away so I can look straight down into it. The labeling on U404 that I see is TI space 93, and then on the second row it looks like AD something. It's too small for me to make out with that, so we're going to go to the microscope. So I can at least give you as much detail as possible. Okay, let's polarize a bit. Okay, it's a TI 93 ADK. Let's see if I can give you a picture of that. Do we have output on the microscope? Yeah. So that is what the component looks like. TI 93 ADK. All right, that's everything. I'm going to close her up now and do the self-tests.